If you've been playing any sort of video games that have come out in the last couple of decades, particularly online ones, then you're probably familiar with the concept of a challenge system. Sometimes it's done decently, other times it's done so badly it gets completely removed, but I want to talk about why it keeps being used and how to use it properly. For the sake of clarity, I should say that when I mean a challenge system, I don't mean strictly achievements, as that's something else entirely. What I'm referring to whenever I mention a challenge system in a game is when it's used as one of and or the only form of progression in that game. The way you unlock items and progress in the game rather than playing it in an unorthodox way for bragging rights. Something like a knife-only run in Resident Evil 2 wouldn't count since there's no challenge that lets you unlock anything from it, which is contrasted with the Resident Evil 4 remake, as that game's handgun and knife-only run does actually give you an in-game reward. I'd be here for hours if I was talking about every challenge system and what makes it good or bad, so I'll focus on two games in particular. The Hitman World of Assassination trilogy, and using that game's system to see if I can rework how challenges are in the other game in this video focuses on, Payday 3. Because I genuinely think that the challenge system in Hitman is the best designed in any game I've played. Hitman is a game I've put hundreds of hours into over the years that it's been out on both PS4 and PC. Simply put, it's marketed as a social stealth game, one of the last bastions of the genre to boot, but it also has much wider appeal given the vast amount of forgiveness it has in regards to failure. You play as the enigmatic bald man only known as Agent 47, and given his career as an assassin, he's allowed to use a plethora of guns and items in whatever missions he goes on. But starting off, you're only allowed a silenced pistol, fiber wire, and some coins to distract people. How do you get the rest of these tools that he canonically plays with? That would be through the challenges in the game. Let's take the first main map of the game, Paris. In this mission, your goal is to eliminate 2 people, and given that the only thing you've likely done at this point is the tutorial, you aren't going to do it perfectly. Maybe you shoot one of them on sight while you disguise yourself as an actor guy for the other target, and then make your way out of there. You feel good after finishing the mission, but when you get to the results screen, you're faced with a gigantic wall of images where only a handful light up, showing you the sheer vastness of the options you had to kill your targets. These are the rest of the challenges you could have done, and you could very easily go back and try some of these later. But you did get a few of them done, and then you see this screen showing the XP you earned, as well as this thing called Mastery that fills up. In terms of introducing someone to the system, this is an excellent way to do it, but why is that important? Simply put, nobody is going to interact with a system that takes them far too much effort to discover or even understand. Here, it's communicated in a simple way. You shot your target, but what if you did it again and strangled him instead? Of course, the better question is why you would bother, and that's because of the unlockable items when you look a little bit deeper. Once you see the mastery bar fill up, you're shown this screen of things you have unlocked, like a new starting point on the map, or a new place for you to stash something like a sniper rifle in a future attempt, or a different item entirely depending on how much XP you actually earned. This effortlessly shows the player the kinds of rewards they get for interacting with the system and why they should engage with it. In other words, the game shows the player exactly what the incentive for interacting with the system is, and they didn't even realize they were interacting with the system in the first place. Seamlessly guiding the player through something without them ever realizing they're being helped along or taught something is a core pillar of game design, and Hitman does it very elegantly. So let me break down why it works so well. There's 3 main aspects that make this system tick, so to speak, with those things being clarity, making sure the player understands what's being shown and why it matters, incentive, giving them a suitable reason and reward to interact in the first place, and investment, showing that the more effort you put in, the more you're rewarded. After all, my own inventory isn't this full purely from chance. I earned all these guns and explosives that I'll almost never use. I've already talked about how the game very effortlessly introduces the player to the system, but the way it keeps the player from being scared off is by making sure you understand what means what overall. There's a few ways this is done, but one of them is by splitting each of the challenges into categories. For example, the assassination challenges always relate to how you perform the kill, with one of the challenges being killing your target in 5 distinct ways. Garroting with fiber wire, shooting them, killing them in an accident, drowning them, which counts as an accident, so technically 4, and then poisoning them directly. When you do all of these, you're given a pretty hefty chunk of XP both for each individual method, but also for the challenge that said to do all 5 in the first place. There's plenty of other challenges than just those, but those are the only ones that aren't map specific. One example of an assassination challenge that immediately hooked me when I first saw it though was killing Silvia Caruso in Sapienza map with an explosive golf ball. I mean, come on, who sees explosive golf ball and doesn't want to see it in action? For those that prefer to vary up their gameplay through exploring the map and seeing the sights, though, are the discovery challenges, which essentially reward you for exploring the maps that iOI so lovingly designed. There's also feats, which are just doing ultra-specific things that you probably wouldn't have thought of without the system telling you that they are things you can and probably should try, or in the rarer cases going after something that you thought to do on a whim and then seeing a challenge complete and wondering, how did they even anticipate I'd try that? On top of these multiple options, sometimes you'll see a challenge like this that, besides an image and a name, doesn't have a description, leaving you to figure out what to do with it or what it entails. Redacted challenges are the biggest puzzles in Hitman's challenge system, as most, if not all of them, require very extensive map knowledge and understanding of how the NPCs and targets in it work, as without that understanding, you'd never know that in order to complete this challenge that I showed earlier, you need to get to the top of the church's bell tower, shoot this power box outside the Caruso mansion, then wait for him to get to his giant telescope, and finally, fire a bullet through the telescope into his skull. If you figured all this out without resorting to a guide on the internet, then I'm sure you felt immensely satisfied finally pulling it off. Logically speaking though, most of these challenges wouldn't matter if the reason to engage with them was just seeing a number go up. That is nice and satisfying at first, to be fair, but without anything more than that, it doesn't mean much in the long term. This is done through multiple ways, like the mastery system I've already mentioned, but there's also some items that are locked to specific challenges. One of the most prominent examples is the Seeger 300 Ghost Sniper Rifle, which is objectively one of the best sniper rifles in the entire game. You get it by finishing a challenge for completing an escalation mission in the Marrakesh map, being given the toy to play with before actually unlocking it, then being told to snipe 2 targets from a rooftop, finishing the escalation mission, and then being able to use the sniper rifle in any map you choose. After all, now that you have a sniper rifle, and a really good one at that, now you can do those sniper assassin challenges you've probably peeked at by now. The game shows you exactly what you get for doing challenges and how they're important. It's hard not to be important in a stealth sandbox type game after all, since there's multiple maps to choose from, as even though 3 of them offer a lockpick as an early reward, that simply means you have plenty of options to unlock such a helpful item for your journey early on. It's essentially wordlessly asking the player whether they want to start in the Miami map or start in England. Lastly, the best thing to have once you've put a bunch of time and effort into something is seeing that effort rewarded, and Hitman does this by having the inventory of someone who's done a surplus of the challenges take multiple minutes to sort through their inventory, which in the case of this game, truly immerses you into the mindset of Agent 47, now picking and choosing what items are best suited for the task at hand. Are you going for a drowning kill this time? Well, you better pack some medic poison you unlocked through either a syringe, the dart gun, or the overpowered remote medic device, or you could try bringing a lethal poison and go for the medic poison later on, or just try exploring the map for now to see what you can unlock towards the lockpick. You, as the player, have experienced what it's like to have nothing, so now that you've challenged yourself and been rewarded for it, you have so many tools to play with and have fun, and you now use those tools to unlock more tools to complete new challenges that unlock more tools, and you get the picture. The last thing I want to bring up that's often a pitfall for challenge system is monotonous repetition. More often than not, challenges will tell you to do something a certain amount of times, like using a specific gun to kill someone, say, 100 separate times. Hitman masterfully avoids this by doing something so simple it's amazing almost no other games manage it. Every challenge can only be completed once. Sure, you can do what the challenge entails as many times as you like, but the reward is only ever given one time, meaning the challenges themselves need to be made much more creatively, as you can't fall back on the tried and true, do something this many times approach. There's also no challenges for doing something a nauseating amount of times in a singular map, even if it can close with things like the escalation challenges or completing up to 17 separate escalations. I hated that one. But it never makes you do the same escalation over and over, making you explore most of the game and use the different options available to you. That, on top of everything else in the design of this challenge system, is what makes it truly spectacular. So in summary, Hitman's challenge system works because of a few factors. There's the fact that some of the challenges are always going to be things you see and make you look into what else you can unlock through other challenges through systems like Mastery. That gives you an incentive to interact with the system because you've already dipped your toes in without even realizing it. From there, it's a matter of finding something you want to get and then figuratively and literally challenging yourself to get that item, whether it be an explosive that goes off when you throw a coin nearby, or one of the best sniper rifles in the entire game. Regardless of which one you want, you're interacting with the same system, adding XP to your account and to the map's mastery level, creating a feedback loop as the more XP you earn and the more challenges you complete, the closer you get to obtaining mastery items too. In some cases, it's also a way for the game to tell you things that you may not have thought of on your own, like shooting the virus prototype in Sapienza instead of going into the lab and overheating it personally. Finally, it's also a way to be a sort of puzzle in the game's world, exploring specific parts of the map that you otherwise wouldn't, just to find something that the designers hid away, and being rewarded for your efforts. Feeling like a really smart boy when you shoot these 5 Monarchy Neckos in Ambrose Island and fishing in this specific spot to... This game is weird sometimes. real magic to this challenge system, though, is that it promotes doing something you likely wouldn't have thought of doing in the first time of asking, and they don't just boil down to a glorified checklist of doing the same thing over 1,000 times. Well, aside from the freelancer challenges, but freelancer is another topic entirely. Now, let's look at the opposite end of a challenge system design with launch Payday 3. As I already mentioned earlier, Payday 3's challenge system is pretty much the exact opposite of the one in Hitman. At launch in 2023, the only way you could progress in Payday 3 was via challenges giving you XP, with no other alternative or even supplement to that for simply completing the game's heists. Instead, in the rather self-destructive micromanaging fashion of launch Payday 3, there were a myriad of challenges, sure. But when you looked at what they actually entailed, it was monotonous, tedious, and most of all, dull. It's why the most memorable thing about launch Payday 3 was this bathroom in particular. After all, it was the easiest way to reach those precious 1,000 kills with specific weapon challenge completions. Yes, I said 1,000, and that was for every single weapon in the entire game. These challenges were much more tolerable when the cook-off heist was added, but they were and still are badly designed. Yes, challenges have technically been removed for the most part, with the only remaining challenges being ones that give you currency for reaching certain levels. You get XP now for basically playing the heists and playing them well, which works fine enough, but doesn't do anything for incentivizing people to play them once they've hit that point either. Challenges do still somewhat exist at this point, even if all but one of them are rewards for leveling up, with the only exception being the singular hardcore challenge called Kiss the Chef in the Heist tab, giving you a charm for basically getting the maximum value in the highest difficulty in the cook-off heist. I'll circle around to this challenge again later. For now, you're probably wondering why I said it's still badly designed when challenges were effectively removed as a progression system. That's because it's essentially been replaced by a lesser but marginally better version called contracts. These are 4 challenges of varying degrees of tedium that, once completed in order, reward you with new cosmetics. Some of these are fine, like Truck Stop Gear, where it effectively tells you to use specific weapons in a specific heist, but still allows you to use said weapons in other heists if you so choose, while others require even more monotony than the bathroom originally offered by making you repeatedly open and close the door to said bathroom. Do I think contracts should go? No, that'd be a waste of perfectly good cosmetics and something to make for each update. Since these can be seen as a challenge to work towards fairly passively and don't matter in terms of actual progression, I'm going to instead focus on adjusting another system in terms of challenges, similarly to how Hitman has its map mastery system, but with Payday 3's heists instead. But first, in order to understand what to make of this system, there's a couple things I'll need to go over first, those being the favor system for each heist as well as the original challenge system from Payday 3's launch. Starting with favors, these aren't too difficult to explain, as what they are boil down to essentially letting the player choose what kind of bonus preset things they want to have in the heist. The big downside of these is the fact that they're only ever given out as random rewards, except in the 2 latest heists, Delivery Charge and Shopping Spree, where you can buy their favors from the vendor menu. The other issue with this is that one player can only ever have one favor active at one time, including choosing between heist-specific favors and things like pre-placed deplayables, meaning if you wanted, say, the C4 for Touch the Sky, but also wanted a medic bag, you can unfortunately only choose one. Frankly, I think the limit of favors a single player should be able to activate at once should be increased to 4, with the number going up to the maximum number of favors depending on how many more players are in the group. But that's for when you have the favors, as locking them behind RNG is also a very frustrating design aspect, locking variety and replayability behind a wall that only RNGs can pass through. The second thing I'll explain before moving on to what I changed the system into is the original challenge system itself in all of its bathroom hogging glory. The simple version of it is that there were 3 tabs, one for heist challenges, one for challenges relating to hitting certain level milestones, and a third tab for challenges relating to your performance within the heists themselves. This might seem like a lot, and numerically it is, but when you look into it for more than a minute, you quickly realize 95% of the challenges are doing something a cumulative amount of times, usually maxing out at 100 for heist clears or 1,000 for weapon kills. The worst part is, these challenges usually wouldn't even give a fraction of the same amount of XP you get in the current version of Payday 3 just for beating a heist. Combine that with the sheer tedium of what was objectively the best way to level up, besides beating through stealth heists, made this system something nobody liked and even fewer people actually engaged with in good faith. The remaining 5% of the challenges, however, are what I want to focus on, as besides the fraction of the XP you get from a heist nowadays, these were some of the most interesting challenges to engage with when they actually worked, like a challenge for tying up the manager in No Rest for the Wicked before the game prompted you to, or clearing syntax error in stealth without using a single vent, and one that just told you that you could steal the Sins core in the same heist. It didn't tell you how, similar to Hitman's Redacted challenges, but it told you it was possible, and that was something special. These were the diamonds in the rough that was this original challenge system, and I want to focus on them and other challenges like them in this mock-up of a reworked challenge system I made. After all, Kiss the Chef is a challenge that's not going away, and it's the only one remaining from the Heist Challenge tab. So let's expand that a bit more to make something that the original system very much should have been. No Rest for the Wicked is the example heist I chose for this, and besides my mediocre photo editing skills, I'll go over the philosophy here. The 3 tabs up on the top here would be to sort the challenges into the 3 main categories. General, for challenges that are completable in both the loud and stealth approaches, Loud, for challenges only doable through that approach, and Stealth, for the opposite. I should also mention that the challenges you see here aren't the maximum amount I would have implemented, it's simply all I could fit into a single image. But these challenges go into a similar mentality as the ones from Hitman. Give the player a reason to replay the heist besides simply seeing a number go up. Like with this Who Needs Gold Anyway challenge, this one would be interesting due to the fact that it makes you think outside the box until eventually you've done enough runs to realize you need the ATMs to be broken into for their bags to escape without a single gold bag being secured. Well, but at least you can actually do this on normal. I tried this on Overkill and the bags just don't have enough value to escape with only them, which would need to be adjusted for this challenge to actually work. But that mentality of trying again to see if you got the right RNG for enough money bags would be reason enough to replay the heist, as well as challenges that somewhat conflict, like Burn Baby Burn and It's Only the Rain. These two have complete opposite objectives, meaning most people would end up doing them in 2 separate runs, therefore promoting more replayability. On top of that, these challenges would also follow the one-time completion mentality that Hitman's challenges have, so the reward, that being XP and whatever extra items the developers would attach to them if they so chose, like with Kiss the Chef, would only be obtainable the one time. Of course, very few of these challenges matter without something to really grind towards, so focusing on the left here shows what the incentive and return on investment are in one single page. Taking the challenges that are completed, since I was only able to fit 18 in here, making the maximum 15. But the idea would be that you complete a certain number of challenges, in this image being in chunks of 3, and you unlock access to buy a favor whenever you feel like playing the heist again in the menu. For 3 challenges here, it's the Codebreaker favor that you unlock access to. Then you unlock the pre-placed keycard for 6 challenges completed, and etc. As for the 5th one, which is blank, this would be a unique item of some sort, whether it be a charm, cosmetic, preset weapon, what have you, that the player unlocks for completing enough challenges in this specific heist. I just left it blank because, again, this is a placeholder to get my idea across. With all that said, this is how I would re-implement challenges into Payday 3, taking some pretty heavy inspiration from how Hitman's challenges are handled. You could even add more onto this as well, with challenges for completing a certain number of heists on a high enough difficulty to unlock a specific weapon or paint job, giving even more reasons to go back and replay the heists and just keep playing the game. After all, that's the job of a good progression system, giving people a reason to come back. Hitman does it fantastically, and if it ain't broke, why try and fix it? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit different compared to what I usually do, but I wouldn't be opposed to more things like this in the future if you guys like it. Until then, thanks for watching, and I hope you take care.